Yo, what is going on, you guys? My name is Corbin, and welcome to my channel. It's been a while. I think in all of 2024, I think I posted one video at the beginning of the year, and since then, I've been pretty much ghost. No excuses, but frankly, I really just haven't been super inspired to make longer form videos. If I'm being completely honest with myself, I probably was being a little bit lazy, but honestly, I've been having a lot of fun posting on TikTok. Where you should definitely follow me on there. I post a little bit more frequently there. I will put my information somewhere on the screen here. One of my goals for 2025 though is to kind of get back into the rhythm of posting more regularly on YouTube, using this platform as an opportunity to post more thought out, longer form videos, and also do a little bit of editing, which is something that I weirdly kind of find therapeutic. With this sort of first return to form, if you will, I thought that it would be kind of fun to do a sit down reflection on, I guess, my perception of what I think my own personal style is, and then also just kind of yap a little bit about some of the things and people that are inspiring me. So pour up, roll up, get your snack, get your bevy, whatever you do when you watch these YouTube videos. Let's lock in. I want this to be just like a super chill, personal style video. So yeah, without any further ado, let's get into it. As I've gotten older, I feel like I have a more clear understanding of the things that I like versus the things that are, I guess, more trend driven that aren't necessarily for me. I like to think that my personal style is sort of like a reflection of, the things that I'm into and sort of like, I guess, the lifestyle that I lead. To describe sort of this current iteration of my personal style, I would sort of define it as Gothic Americana with elements of prep and workwear. I tend to wear a lot of normal, traditional Americana silhouettes, but dress them in sort of like a darker, neutral color tone palette. A lot of blacks, shades of gray, olive, brown, and like navy is kind of the territory that I tend to play in most often. I also think that my love of vintage clothing plays a very big role in my current personal style. I just really love when garments have a level of like character and grit to them and are sort of like worn in. For myself personally, that's just sort of what I am most comfortable in. So next I want to talk a little bit about where I find inspiration. First, starting with like a more macro view of the larger things that inspire me, and then getting a little bit more granular in terms of who are some of the specific people that I'm looking at for like style and like fashion inspiration. I guess the first and maybe most obvious macro influence on me is just everyday life. I'm fortunate enough to live in Chicago, which I believe to be the greatest city in the world. There's so much around me, from architecture to the history of the city to just all these unique and interesting people that I interact with on a day-to-day basis, whether that's on the streets or at work. Professionally, I work within advertising at an agency, so I work with and around creative people all day long, many of which have their own like cool, sensitive style and ways of dressing. The second macro influence on my personal style is definitely music. I think they say music you listen to in high school or like in your early adolescence goes on to really influence much of your taste throughout a lot of your adult life. Personally, I find this to be so true. I think I was in like 8th or 9th grade when I first discovered bands like The Strokes, Velvet Underground, Lou Reed, The Replacements, and like to this day, I feel like the attitude of, those kinds of indie and like garage bands really has shaped my perception of like what I think to be cool. And then the third macro influence on my personal style is travel. I find that anytime you're able to put yourself in an unfamiliar environment, it does so much in terms of like expanding your perspective or your POV on the world. Not only just from like a fashion / like style standpoint, but also in terms of lifestyle as well. Anytime I come home home from a trip, I almost always feel like I have a revitalized, outlook on life and also ways of dressing. So next I want to get a little bit more granular in terms of some of like the current people that are inspiring my personal tastes and ways of dressing. So I have three like subcategories for the people that inspire me. First, starting with like the influencers slash internet people, if you will. So the first person on this list is Kaylee McKenzie. If you're unfamiliar with who she is a longtime creator on this YouTube platform. She used to run a brand called Stotts with her former partner Avery Ginsberg, who is also like a YouTube legend within his own right as well. A little bit more specifically on Kaylee, I think that she very much fits into like that dark Americana style definition that I was giving a little bit earlier in the video. She actually, I think, wrote a Substack article a couple of months back that like inspired me to make this video today. She definitely wears a lot of like darker aesthetics mixed in with like vintage and archive pieces. I think in my head, the aspirational version of my personal style, I think, is like just a more masculine version of the way that she dresses. Second person under like the influencer slash like internet person umbrella is Aaron Levine. I feel like he is probably one of the most talked about like cool guys on the internet over the last like year or so, and rightfully so. He's a really great designer and has super great personal style. I think what I love the most about Aaron's style is that it's just super effortless and like lived in, which is sort of the same approach that I have to getting dressed as well. Similar to myself, he wears a lot of like blacks and like shades of gray and implements a lot of textures into his outfit, and overall is just a really great dresser. The last person I want to shout out under like the internet umbrella is Owen Hyatt. If you don't know who Owen is, he's another popular creator on YouTube and TikTok, and then also has a really great brand called Somar as well. When it comes to Owen, even though his style isn't really the way that I dress, what I find super cool about his personal style is how he's really able to implement a lot of his own personal interests outside of fashion into the way that he dresses. If you follow Owen, you probably know that he's really into like video games and movies, which are two things that very much play a huge role in the way he dresses and his overall aesthetic. The next subcategory that I want to talk about in terms of the people that inspire me is actually on podcasts. I know that sounds really funny with podcasts being a audio medium for a visual expression, but there are two podcasts in particular that honestly really influence a lot of the micro trends that like I pay attention to. So those podcasts are Throwing Fits and How Long Gone. The respective hosts of each of those shows all have different styles altogether, but they definitely play a huge role in terms of what I pay attention to. Specifically in regards to Throwing Fits, they definitely put me on to a lot of like the Scandinavian brands, Our Legacy, MF Pen, Sunflower. I first heard about those brands like several years ago through that podcast, and then it's interesting to see how popular those brands have become in sort of like the current lexicon of menswear slash streetwear, whatever we want to call this thing. The third and like final subcategory of people that inspire me are celebrities and historical figures. The first person on this list is none other than Miles Davis. I think Miles Davis is like the goat of goats when it comes to like dressing and general aura or swag or whatever. Something that I find to be super cool about Miles' style is the way that through the decades, the more experimental his music got, there was a reflection of that in the way that he dressed as well. Seeing the way that he was dressing during some of his earlier works versus the way he was dressing within some of his later works through like the 70s and 80s is super interesting to watch, and I think that he is just really like the definition of cool. Another style celebrity goat that I definitely have to include on this list is none other than Mr. Ralph Lauren. I think bar none, he is the single greatest world builder within contemporary menswear, period. Whether you're into like the Ralph Lauren aesthetic or not, I think there really is like no denying the power and scale of what he was able to create, not only through the clothes themselves, but also through the lookbooks and editorial and store design. There's so much to sort of sink your teeth into within the Ralph Lauren universe. That for me personally, he will just always be on my like Mount Rushmore stylish dudes. That's just gonna about do it for today's video. Hopefully this video wasn't too like awkward or boring. It's been a very long time since I've tried to just sit down and talk to a camera. It's definitely not something that comes too naturally to me, but it is something that I would like to challenge myself to do more of this year. So yeah, let me know if you enjoyed the video, and I will see you very soon, hopefully in the next one. Peace.